you're tired, worn out, burned out on religion, come to me. Get away with me and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. I want to invite you this morning, if you feel comfortable, to open your hands in a position of open-heartedness to what God wants to say to us this morning, and join with me as I pray. Heavenly Father, I sense your presence in this space with us this morning. Father, I sense that we stand on holy ground today. Father, I pray that as we speak about your word today, Father, that it wouldn't be the words of Erin, but it would be the words of you. Have your way and your will in this place today, Father. Help us to hear your heartbeat today, that we would grow more in love with you as we sit at the feet of Jesus. We submit our own agendas to you this morning and ask that you would shape us and encourage us and call us to yourself. In your mighty name, amen. This morning I want to tell you a story about rest. And it's a story about finding space to practice what we have been talking about over the last few weeks, about remaining in him, about finding space to be with Jesus, about understanding what it looks like to be seen by God and loved by God and shaped by who he is. I grew up in a faith tradition that was particularly obsessed with accomplishment. In our pursuit to see Jesus, see people come to find Jesus, come to find rest for their souls in him, we learnt not rest for our souls, but we learnt to strive for souls. As a 17-year-old, as I finished my final year of school, I was really engaged in active service in my church. On a Monday night, I was playing social basketball, church basketball, and on a Wednesday night, I was running a small group. On a Thursday night, I was involved in a leadership development program, and we were taught as 17-year-olds how to cold call young people who might be interested or who'd shown some interest in our youth program. On a Friday night, I was at youth. On Saturday, I was socialising and connecting with the people in my Connect group, my small group. On a Sunday, I would go to family worship in the morning, all the way in the city with my family, and then I would return in the afternoon to serve and worship together. And I did all of that while I was studying Year 12 and trying to stay connected to people that were unchurched and outside of my circle, my church circle. You know, the expectation for us was that we would follow Jesus with everything. That it would be a life of servitude to his plan to spread the good news to all people. And it was a big and never-ending task. And it would be really easy for us to point the finger at another faith tradition and say, man, have they got it wrong? Like, they have really missed the point. And yet I want to suggest to us this morning that actually the entire world is telling us that busy is our God. That we need to do more and strive more and be more full. That busy is our God. You know, if you spoke to anybody pre-COVID, you know, that kind of surface level conversation that we have with people pre-COVID, we say, how are you? And people say, good, but busy, right? Because busy is our God. We make it this fulfillment for our lives, this thing that, like, if I'm busy, then somehow I'm doing a good job. We wear busy like a badge of honour. And we don't just fill our lives with busy. It's not just about our work requirements and trying to spend time with family and with friends and to pursue, health and fitness and somehow do all of the things, the busy things that are shaping our lives. But we raise our children into this idea that busy is everything. They have to balance schoolwork and then sport, sometimes winter sport and summer sport, and maybe, an instrument or two instruments if they want to be in the worship band, and a language. Yeah, our kids need a language as well, and they need to be reading at a level higher than what they actually are. And we're so busy and full. We're so full of distraction, and then we wonder, why am I tired? Why do I kind of like lockdown? I'm so full. Why does church feel like an effort? Why does prayer and scripture feel hard work? Why does the idea of going deep with people feel exhausting to me? And why can't I hear God? Are you tired? Worn out? Burnt out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. As I was preparing this content this week, I found myself weeping in my office as I read through the screw tape letters, and I considered afresh how much we are a distracted people. We are so distracted, and I am distracted. Like, I will do anything to put noise in my life to stop me from having to be quiet and still. During lockdown, I put TikTok on my phone. Like, some of you are like, okay, but that's a big deal. I was never, ever, ever going to go on TikTok, and I went on TikTok, and man, it drains hours from your life because it's kind of funny, actually, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. But we are busy and distracted by Netflix and TikTok and now Apple TV, and, Paramount is starting today. Is it starting today? It's very exciting. There's so much stuff for us to do. It's constant. Listen to what C.S. Lewis says in the Screw Tape Letters when he's addressing his nephew Wormwood. He's the senior demon, and he says this: "The only thing that matters is the extent to which you separate the man from the enemy. That's God. It does not matter how small the sins are, provided that their cumulative effect is to edge man away from light and into nothing. Murder is no better than cards, if cards can do the trick. Indeed, the safest road to hell is the gradual one, the gentle slope, soft underfoot, without sudden turnings, without milestones, without signposts. Our addiction to hurry and to busy, it matters very much because there is a very real spiritual battle at hand, which is trying desperately to distract us from seeing God and from seeing his kingdom and his will. It is trying to distract us from hearing the whisper and sometimes, honestly, even the shout of God into the spaces that he is calling us into, to be loved and known by him and to have life and life in all its fullness. A few years ago, I actually found myself again in this, treadmill. I don't know, what is it that the hamster runs on? What's that called? Hamster wheel? That. Hamster wheel of busy. I was doing so many things for Jesus, and my plate was absolutely full. And please hear me, there is nothing wrong with doing things for Jesus, but it cannot be our first priority. And I found myself feeling like Martha, like frustrated at God that he wasn't doing enough. I wasn't seeing him move enough. I wasn't seeing the fulfillment of his plan and his purpose. And honestly, I would say that I found myself in this pursuit of faith that was empty and unsatisfying and pretty unfulfilling. I had been tricked into thinking that God needed my busyness, that I was being such a good Christian for Jesus because I was doing so much stuff. Maybe you've noticed that for yourselves. Maybe you've noticed the pace of life changing over the years. Or maybe you've heard yourself lamenting that there's not enough time in the day. Maybe you feel the overwhelm and the anxiety of this never-ending task list of things to do. Maybe you ask yourself, what's the next? What's the more? What's the next experience that I should have? What's the next promotion that I should go for? What's the next stage of our lives? What's the best house that we should be having? What's the next degree that we should add to our list of degrees? It's a never-ending task list of distractions and consumption for us. How am I going to finish this assignment? How am I going to get through today? Waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, going through the task list in your head and stressed and anxious about how am I going to get through this next day? I want to suggest to us that this is not how God created us to live life. This is not the call of a life satisfied and fulfilled by Jesus. It's not how we find pleasure in Christ and Christ alone. Are you tired? Worn out? Burnt out on religion? Come to me. Get away with me and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me and you'll learn to live lightly and freely. There's a guy in the Old Testament who finds himself in this level of burnout, and it's Elijah in 1 Kings 19. He is an amazing prophet, and he does this really effective work for Jesus. Well, not for Jesus, he doesn't exist yet, but well, he does. The word was there in the beginning. Oh, gosh. For God. He does this amazing work for God. And he challenges King Ahab's, prophets, the prophets of Baal, to this, big challenge about whose God is stronger and more powerful. And God turns up in a spectacular way with fire and power, and it's incredible. But then straight after this event, Elijah is threatened by King Ahab and his wife Jezebel, and instead of like a brave, fearless, I know who my God is, you can't terrify me prophet who we have seen previously, we see a man who's tired and anxious and overwhelmed and scared, and he runs to the mountain, to Mount Sinai. And in his disappointment with God, God says to him, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" And his response is, "I have zealously served the Lord God Almighty, but," and then he lists his distractions and his disappointments and his frustrations with the situation and circumstance that he's found himself in. He's stopped seeing God's might and power and wonder because he is exhausted. And God hasn't changed. It's the same God. It's Elijah that has changed. There's a couple of things that I think are really interesting for us to learn in this story. The first one is that before Elijah can hear the voice of God, which comes next in this story, he actually has to acknowledge that he is tired. He has to name it and recognize it and see that he is tired. And he doesn't just acknowledge that he is tired, he accepts rest. In verse 3 it says this: Elijah was afraid and fled for his life. He went to Beersheba, a town in Judah, and he left his servant there. Then he went on alone into the wilderness, traveling all day. He sat down under a solitary broom tree and prayed that he might die. Take my life, for I am no better than my ancestors who have already died. This is a man who has just done this amazing thing for God. And he's at the point where he's saying, honestly, I think you should just take me. Just take me to glory. I'm done. I've got nothing else to give. I am bone tired. He acknowledges that he has had enough, and then he rests. The Bible says that he sleeps, and actually the most beautiful thing in this story is that angels tend to his physical needs. They make him hot bread and serve it on a hot stone. Isn't that such a beautiful picture of our loving God who loves us so much that he wants to provide for even our physical needs? He wants to call us into rest and then provide us with nourishment, beautiful nourishment that carries us into the seasons that he's calling us into. The second thing is that Elijah encounters God not in the noise and the chaos and the big and the loud and the look at my God, he can bring fire, he can stop the rain. No, in this moment, Elijah encounters God in the quiet, in the still, in the pause, in the space. Verse 12 says, and after the earthquake there was a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire there was the sound of a gentle whisper. When Elijah heard it, he wrapped his face in his cloak and he went out and he stood at the entrance of the cave, and there he encountered the living God. Ruth Halliburton makes this comment. She says, it is interesting that Elijah never asked for guidance. Guidance simply came in the context of his willingness to be with God in utter openness and vulnerability. Something in the willingness to stop the flow of his own words and listen in silence opened up space for the one who longs to speak and offer guidance for our next steps and knottiest questions. Dallas Willard, a theologian who is very esteemed by a number of pastors around the world, when asked how can we remain in him, that question that we have been talking about over the past few weeks, how can we do it? It's a great idea, Nathan. We love John 15. How can we remain in him though? He says this: you must ruthlessly eliminate hurry. You must ruthlessly eliminate hurry. John Mark Comer, in his book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, says this: if you want to experience the life of Jesus, you have to adopt the lifestyle of Jesus. Just take his life as a template for your own. Take on his habits and practices. And so this morning I want to get practical for you, because we've been talking about this love that changes everything. We've been inviting you into find space, just be with Jesus, remain in him. His love is so amazing. But I wonder if you're saying, cool story, but how do we do it? How do we actually do that? And I want to suggest to you that one way that we can do that is through the practice of Sabbath. I didn't really know a lot about Sabbath a few years ago. I had never really taught about Sabbath in the churches that I had been in. And so when I thought about Sabbath, I would say at best it was probably a legalistic kind of hangover from the Old Testament that hadn't really come into, the new covenant. It wasn't a part of our practice or our fellowship of Jesus. And it was certainly not a practice that I needed to concern myself with, because I am not Jewish, and so who cares? Although if you listen to me preach, you would probably think I wish I was Jewish. But as I have read about the Sabbath and thought about it and learnt and listened to people talking about it, it has become a practice that has honestly been deeply formational for me and for my family. At its best, Sabbath brings joy and rest, and it is an amazing experience for my family. But Sabbath is a spiritual discipline. And guess what that means? It means that it shows me my flesh every time I engage in the practice of Sabbath. And that means that it's actually not always easy to do. But like the rhythm of any rhythm of relationship with God, in highlighting our flesh, we see more of Jesus. And that makes it something worth learning about and considering and talking about in our small groups and thinking about how we engage in this practice. There's 3 things that I would love for us to know this morning about the practice of Sabbath. Sabbath forces us to embrace our limitations. It places God on the throne of our lives, and it creates space for us to hear the Spirit. In forcing us to embrace our limitations, I think we can see this really clearly in the life of Jesus. Because over and again, if we study the life of Jesus, if we're thinking about his template as, his life as a template for our own, we see Jesus engaging in this practice of rest and getting away from people, from the crowds, and encouraging his disciples to do the same thing again and again. He's constantly retreating from the crowds. After he is baptized in front of, a crowd of people, he is audibly considered as the Son of God with whom I am well pleased. You would think, our Western world would tell us, now is the time. Get on it, scale, grow, go, build momentum, capitalize on this moment. This is it. You're about to build your kingdom. The kingdom of heaven has come to earth. But actually, Jesus retreats. That's the first thing that he does. He gets away on his own to be alone with Jesus, not to do busy work. And then in Mark 6, verse 30, the apostles return from their own ministry trip where they've gone out and spread the good news about what's happening and who Jesus is. And Jesus, who knows that his time on earth is short, instead of saying, good one, lads and ladies, well done, we've done a great job, let's see if we can get more people on board, it's a bit of a pyramid scheme, the more people we get, the better it's going to be, we're going to have more reach over the world, and, we're on fire, we've fed all these people, it's going great. No, that's not what Jesus says to them. He says, okay, let's get away, let's retreat. Let's go and spend time on our own. He says, let's get away from the crowds for a while and rest. What? And Jesus sleeps. And we hear stories about Jesus actively choosing to sleep. I actually think some of you need to hear that this morning. Some of you need to know that actually God wants you to sleep, to not have your sleep hindered by anxiety and fear and overwhelm, and that when you go to bed at night and you lay your head on the pillow, that you make a choice to say, I cannot do any more with today, God. I put it into your hands. I give you control. I submit to your lordship and your authority. Help me to sleep tonight. Jesus stops and he eats constantly. Read through the Gospels. He does so much of his ministry in people's homes, eating with people, eating with sinners, eating with people that are, not the people that they would expect him to be eating with. He enjoys hospitality. He parties. We actually hear about moments where the Pharisees are so mad at Jesus because he's engaging in this party behavior. I want to suggest that actually I think Jesus quite enjoyed his life. I think he enjoyed the rhythms of his life. The Sabbath is not just a commandment. It's actually built into the very fabric of best practice for us as followers of Jesus. It's how we live life well. God creates the world and then he creates rest. And he models for us how to rest because he does it himself and invites us into that practice. God created the world with seasons. Think about that. Think about how there are seasons, not just of our life as we grow from childhood into adulthood and then into what comes after adulthood. It's about the seasons, of winter and spring and seasons of rest and then seasons of productivity. He deliberately and intentionally calls us to set aside our work and to put him on top of the priority chain. Limitations are sanctioned by God to help us understand that we are not the God of this life. It doesn't all rise and fall on us. Sabbath places God on the throne of our lives. When we embrace Sabbath as a practice, we deliberately choose to set aside time every week where we stop working, we tools down. And that might look really different for all of us. We have, as a family, we practice Sabbath. We Sabbath on a Friday night at about 5:30, 6 o'clock, somewhere in there. We down tools. We don't put stuff in our schedule. We don't clean. It's my favourite bit. We don't cook. We turn off our emails. I try really hard to turn off my phone, and we engage in Sabbath together as a family, and we just rest. And we let two principles guide our Sabbath time together. Friday night and then into Saturday. And it's supposed to be a 24-hour window. Now, I'm going to get to application in a minute. That's going to, ebb and flow. For us, it certainly does. Sometimes we nail it and sometimes not so much. But for 24 hours, we try to just switch off and let these two priorities guide us. Anything that is rest or delight and anything that is worship. At first, when we started practicing Sabbath, I was so tired that the idea of switching everything off and just being present with my husband and with my kids and being present with Jesus was such a treat. It was an invitation that I was like, yes, please, sign me up. That sounds absolutely amazing. But it didn't take too many Sabbaths for me to realize that my addiction to accomplishment was being really tested during this season of Sabbath. And I have to choose actively every time I engage in the practice of Sabbath to let go. To let go of my need to control it and to build something for myself. To let go of my lack of work, because sometimes I engage in work because I don't have to engage with my family. To hear my heart say, I should spend some time with you right now, God, but there's something stopping me from doing that. What is that? Why don't I just want to sit at the feet of Jesus? What's going on in my heart today? How do we remain in him? John 15 says we embrace his commands. It says, I've loved you the way my Father has loved me. Make yourself at home in my love. If you keep my commands, you'll remain intimately at home in my love. That's what I've done. kept my Father's commands and made myself at home in his love. Sabbath draws us closer to God as we linger in his command to embrace rest. And Sabbath creates space for us to hear the Spirit. You know, my favourite thing about Sabbath is that once I've recovered from the week and the pressures of the week and the work, and once I enter into rest, my soul is able to breathe deeply. And I find space to be with his Spirit afresh. As I intentionally disregard distraction, I create space for God. John Mark Homer describes it like this. He says, Satan doesn't show up as a demon with a pitchfork and gravelly smoker voice, or as Will Ferrell with an electric guitar and fire on Saturday Night Live. He's far more intelligent than we give him credit for. Today, you're far more likely to run into the enemy in the form of an alert on your phone while you're reading your Bible, or a multi-day Netflix binge, or a full-on dopamine addiction to Instagram, or a Saturday morning at the office, or another soccer game on a Sunday, or commitment after commitment after commitment in a life of speed. And then he goes on to say this: the Sabbath is an invitation to enter delight. The Sabbath, when experienced as God intended, is the best day of our lives. Without question or thought, it is the best day of the week. It is the day we anticipate on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and it's the day we remember on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Sabbath is the holy time where we feast, play, dance, have sex, sing, pray, laugh, tell stories, read, paint, walk, and watch creation in its fullness. Few people are willing to enter the Sabbath and sanctify it, to make it holy. Because a full day of delight and joy is more than most people can bear in a lifetime, let alone a week. It's a big quote. There's so much to unpack in that, and I would recommend that you, if you're interested in how you start this practice of Sabbath, to come and have a chat to me or to Nathan. We have heaps of resources around the idea of Sabbath. But John Mark Homer's book, The Ruthless, Elimination of Hurry, is a great place to start. You know, as you start on this journey, you'll take little steps forward and then some steps back. You know, anybody that decides, I'm going to run a marathon, does not get up tomorrow and run a marathon. They do that slowly. They build up their ability to be able to do that. And Sabbath is the same. It's a process. But I would say start small. Just try it. Just try setting aside a time in your week that you can make holy. Make holy for God by engaging in rest, delight, and worship. Try to put away the distractions. See if you can turn your phone off. See if you can switch off your emails. See how freeing and liberating it is to say, I can't answer this today. Today's work is done. And nothing that I do today is going to fix this situation, so I am going to leave it at the feet of Jesus and allow him to do his job. Think about what is restful for you and your family. It might be a walk in nature. It might be listening to worship music. It might be a podcast. It might be reading or taking a long bath. What is restful for you and your family? What would be something that you would take delight in? And what is worshipful? What creates space for the Spirit in your life? And ruthlessly eliminate hurry. Just keep it in the back of your mind and start thinking about, how could I find myself no longer addicted to the need to hurry. Pick the longest line at the shopping centre and not the shortest line. See what that does for your soul. As the worship team come again this morning, we're going to spend a moment asking God to be the priority of our hearts once again. I recognise that hurry has been an addiction for me. Accomplishment has been an addiction for me. It has been something that I have used to make myself feel worthy. But that's not what makes me worthy. It's the work of Christ on the cross is the only thing that makes me worthy. And as I choose to engage in rest, I'm reminded that it's the work of Jesus that sanctifies me, not my striving. It is the work of Jesus that will grow this church, not our striving. In Sabbath, I have found an enjoyment in God and in my family that I never knew existed. Are you tired? Worn out? Burnt out on religion? Come to me, get away with me, and you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. I wonder if, like Elijah, as you allow yourself to recognise the weariness, to acknowledge it today, that you might feel God beckoning you to find rest for your soul. That you might hear his whisper and his invitation to you this morning to rest in him and then be empowered to go.
What does it look like for you to surrender to him today? What does it look like for you to get away with Jesus and to recover your life? What does it look like for you to walk with him and work with him and to learn these unforced rhythms of grace that Erin talked about? How is he leading you to work with him in this? What does it look like for you to practice Sabbath? You know, so I trust the Spirit has been speaking to you today. I pray that you wouldn't just leave it here as you walk out the doors, but have conversations with one another. Share with one another how God is speaking to you and challenging you in this, to walk in these things and to sit at the feet of Jesus. You know, what I found fascinating this morning was that today's Lectio 365 just so happens to be on Sabbath, if you did that today. And so if you haven't listened to it, I would encourage you to listen to that later today, read that. But as we close, I want to close with a prayer from this Lectio this morning. This is what it says, so pray with me. God of rest, we opt for you today. And we align ourselves with you this morning. Give us the quiet strength to defy control and anxiety, maybe even entertainment too, and instead help us to fully enter rest. We trust you and we welcome your presence. We welcome your peace, your shalom today. In the name of Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.